my wife Deborah and I placed our son Justin Wallace at the Austin State Supported Living Center in 2002. He is 34 years old. He's severely autistic. He is prone to self-injury and to violence when people try to restrain him. There are many, many people out there who ask the question, why don't you just have your loved ones at home or in the community? Why would you want them to be in a residential facility? When we placed our son in the facility in Louisiana, it was the darkest day of our lives. It was the most horrible thing that had ever happened. And except for losing a loved one, it's one of those things that you just don't recover from. He was our baby, and we had to, as I wrote at the time in a little journal, it was like dropping off a puppy at the pound. He had no idea where he was going. He didn't know why he wasn't leaving with us, and he had to stay. So we didn't take this lightly. He wasn't placed in a residential setting because we were inconvenienced or because it was easier. We placed him there to save his life. When we finally did get him into the Austin State Supported Living Center, the first 2 years were terrible because he had to adjust to moving from Louisiana to Texas. He had new care workers, he had new rules, he had other violent residents that caused him to be set off. But after 2 years, he was relocated into a new setting and a new cottage with older, calmer men. And all of a sudden, life started working for him. Of course, he's still autistic, he still has violent tendencies, he still has self-injury, but he has been relatively injury-free, at least serious or life-threatening injuries, for the last 10 years. I was told I was going to die within a year. I was very, very heartened by the fact that I had him now in a place where he could calm down and have a decent life, and that he would always be there, that it would be the one place that he would always be safe and secure. And they sent us this letter last summer, and suddenly that whole world was turned upside down. It's like y'all just pushed us all over a precipice of uncertainty. I mean, it's like we had this life and he had this life and we knew that it would be there, and all of a sudden now we have no idea what's going to happen. DADS, the agency that oversees the Austin State Supported Living Center and all the living centers, sent out a letter in June telling us that the 70 people that lived on the Wood Hollow unit, which was 7 cottages that are in the northwest section of the Austin State Supported Living Center, would all be closed, and all of those people would be essentially evicted. They didn't use the word, but they said they'd be relocated, and that they would be relocated somewhere off of that campus. And it could either be a group home in the local area or another state-supported living center, the closest one being 80 miles away. So immediately, of course, we protested. We were allowed to have a meeting about it, and the team at the State-Supported Living Center told us that that they decided that Justin, our son Justin, was in the appropriate environment and they would not assess him to be moved. But DADS agency said, no, we're moving him because the building's closed. So no, the actual wording was, Building 784 on Wood Hollow is no longer the appropriate setting for your son because it will be closed. The only reason it was not appropriate was because it was going to be closed. When we asked why it was going to be closed, they said a variety of reasons, but most of them were because they couldn't pass regulatory standards, and they felt like if they reduced the population by 70 people, that somehow magically they were going to start being in compliance with federal and state regulations. That was what they came up with. What we found out was that the 2 acres right in the middle of those 7 buildings had been sold to a developer in 2007 who applied for a condo unit permission from the city. The city refused his rezoning request for 7 years. Patterson, as the land commissioner on state letterhead, actually, wrote the Austin City Council and suggested that they actually comply with this rezoning request because it would increase the value of the land so that when the state of Texas sold the Austin State School campus, they could get maximum market value. In March of 2014, they approved his rezoning request. The state then was working with the developer in encouraging the sale of this property. And immediately after that, the letters went out, April, May. They said he could be relocated to Brenham, which is 80 miles away. We have a very active, large family that goes out there to the state school for every special occasion. Every birthday, every holiday, and at least once a month. The other 4 kids, or 3 of them that are living here now, all go out there with us. Their nieces and nephews go. We have 9 grandkids. They've all been there to visit their Uncle Justin. We told them if you move him to Brenham, not only is he going to have an extremely hard time making the adjustment, but we're not going to be able to be part of his life like we are now. It'll just mostly be my wife and I, and we'll be driving for a half day. We can't do this drop-in like we do now. On Saturday or Sunday, we just drive by and we go in and we see him. And if any of our kids are there, we call them and say, we're about to go in, why don't y'all come meet us? We won't be able to do that anymore. We won't be able to monitor anymore because I really am active in monitoring and dropping by just to see how things are going. How am I going to do that when he's 80 miles away? So we protested on that, and they told us we could ask for an administrative hearing. But when I talked to the hearing officer, I am, by the way, a retired hearing officer for the state of Texas in another agency. And when I talked to the hearing officer, I said, do you have the power to actually stop the closure of those 7 buildings? Since you're going to be the hearing officer, is that within your parameters? And he said no. But he said no unofficially, off the record, on the phone. He wouldn't say it in writing. He said, actually, I can't do anything for you at all. If you come to my hearing, I'm going to tell you he has to move because the buildings are being closed, period. So he said, what I really need people to do, this is the hearing officer that works for the state, said what I really need people to do is file an injunction so I don't have to hold any more of these hearings. So I did. I filed in federal court I filed a suit under what's called Section 1983 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Basically what it says is that anybody who is in the color of a state authority, that if they're acting as if they are a state official and they have the title to go with it, and they violate the civil rights of someone, then they are subject to civil and possibly even criminal penalties.